Hi guys, my name is Mühlfeit and I'm former Microsoft chairman for Europe. And today I coach some top managers, executives, Olympic Games winners and some artists. What I do basically, I try to help people understand who they are so they can achieve what they want. I will start with a small story. I was traveling last year at the West Coast promoting my book, The Positive Leader. And one day I spoke at Stanford University, then I spoke at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurship Center in San Francisco, and in front of like 100 athletes in the Olympic Club in San Francisco. So altogether it was like 500, 600 people. And the first question I asked was, how many of you got some subject or seminar or even some coaching on self-awareness to really understand who you are? You know how many people raised their hands? 11 out of the 600. Even those institutions who are really helping people a lot, on education and stuff like that, are not helping them to understand who they are. We are teaching people what is around them, or we are not teaching people what is inside them. And all successful people, and I worked for 10 years, I had the privilege to work for 10 years with Bill Gates. All successful people I used to work, or I work now, they have three common components. Number one, they understand who they are. Number two, they understand what they want from the life. And number three, they have ability to make decisions to use who they are to achieve what they want. Another story. When I was 12 years old, I decided to play professionally tennis. I came to the tennis club, and the guy who was running the club, he said, "You are too fat, you should do sumo." Obviously, I didn't follow what he said, and I decided to do tennis. I was in 1 year best guy, in that specific club, and that one particular decision helped me in my career. We are not defined by our environment, but we are defined by our decisions. Couple of more words about me, but even more words about Czech Republic. I'm very proud to be Czech origin, even though I have homes around the world, but I prefer to stay in Prague and travel. It's kind of my traveling hub. There's a great history of my country, and we are all proud of that history. We are like in the center of Europe. There were a lot of wars coming here and back, and we survive as a nation. It's a relatively small, country, 10 million people living there, but very nice and very historical. So there's a lot of historical roots. That's number one. Education, I think, especially universities, are in a pretty good are on a pretty good level, are in a pretty good shape. I study personally Czech Technical University, so it's a STEM education. Obviously, today I do lessons at Harvard, Stanford, places like INSEAD, where I'm enterpreneur-in-residence, or Imperial College, where I'm in the advisory board even. So the Czech educational system as such, I think it's in a good shape at the universities. Number two, we have fantastic food and best beer in the world, and I visited like 60 countries in the world, so I can compare, obviously. And last but not least, I think we have one of the most beautiful women in the world. And in fact, I work with Tanya Kucharova. That's the blonde, lady down there on the slide. She was a Miss of the World in 2006, obviously, right? But there are also a lot of, I would say, dignitaries, a lot of famous people visiting Prague and Czech Republic. I understand this is aimed mainly for the Indian students. So my dear friend Deepak Chopra, who basically we did together some course on positive leader, based on my positive leader book. Deepak was in Prague and in Czech Republic a couple of times. So I like really what Deepak is doing, even though he's living now, obviously, in the United States. He's a great, friend. Marlene Albright, the first, lady being the state secretary in the U.S., born outside of the U.S., was born, in fact, in Czech Republic, right? Bill Gates was here many, many times, right? So I think it's a great country, and you are welcome to come. And I promise you, if you will come, I will do some speech, as we are saying, in natura for you, okay? So what I do now, I obviously spent 22 years in Microsoft. It was a good career. I learned so many things. But today, I'm the mental coach for the Czech Olympic top team, which is like 60 athletes with chances to win some Olympic game medal. I coach some executives. I work a lot with the entrepreneurs. I teach at different universities. I do a lot of things in the media. But everything goes around what I call positive leadership, which is not positive thinking. Positive leadership means that you try to find what is best in the people, and you try to help them basically build their careers on their specific talents. Now, let me talk to you about the world we live in. We are living for the first time in human history in something I call exponential world. When I was born in 1962, in fact, it was 1965, I need to be precise, Gordon Moore, who was one of the founders in Intel, he formulated something what we call Moore law. It's in fact the rule, but it doesn't matter. It says basically that every second year, you are doubling capacity of transistors on the chip, which means that every second year, we are doubling computing capacity around the world. Technology, guys, is not changing what is done in society and economy, but technology is changing very significantly how things are done. Give you one example. We are in Europe very famous for the good, cars, reliable cars, and so on. And obviously, being in Czech Republic and being Czech origin, I need to mention Skoda car, which is one of the most popular cars in Europe, but also outside of the Europe. If you take Skoda today as a car, more than 50% of the cost of that car is software. So you may say that car industry is more today software industry as opposed to the car industry, right? It is the same for the other producers, which means that the right question for the Skoda and other car producers is like, what will stay the same? Car will be the cars, but how cars will be built will be very different. So the first question you need to ask is like, what I will do, but how things will change in my specific area. We call it technology disruption. Technology is disrupting everything. The second disruption I very often talk about is generational disruption, right? Because we are living, and I talk about disruptive generation, which is more or less young people today, because they are born with technology, right? We are living in society where the young generation understands and is using technology in much better way than the current generation, like baby boomers like me, okay? Which means basically three big things. Number one, younger generation will be sooner in decision-making positions, and if you talk about politics or economy, you see it already. Number two, they will have a say in consumer-related decisions. Like if family decides on the new car, 40% of the decision-making process as such is in the hands of the kids below 11 years old. And number three, this generation, the young generation, is much more on experience as opposed on ownership, right? That's why employers like Skoda, Google, Microsoft, other employers, if they wanted to attract young people, they'll come very soon and will say, okay, I will work in Microsoft or Google or somewhere else, but I will work here only for 8 months, and I want to travel for another 4 months, okay? And you will see it very soon. So we have disruptive technologies, but we have also what I would call positively disruptive generation. It doesn't mean that my generation, like baby boomers, will be relevant. I call it, coaching from top down, like my generation, because we have some wisdom, some experience, coaching top down, but also on technology side, coaching bottom up, which means from the young generation. I have some YouTubers I coach, but they coach me in terms of the technology, right? So it will be like convergence of the generation, okay? But saying that, I must say that I'm technologist, I'm software engineer by profession, but technology is becoming, as always in history, is becoming commodity. And the real thing which will distinguish the winners and the losers of the 21st century in economy, sports, science, art, whatever, will be the ability to use your brain. Shell did recently some study, And they ask big question. What does it take to be among top 5 companies for 200 years? There are not that many brands being like for 200 years among top 5 in Deutsch, maybe GE, Shell, and a couple of others. And the only answer they could find was your ability to learn as an organization, to learn fast. And it's the same for the individual. So ability to learn fast in this century is key. Right, and you want to learn from the best in the best environment and so on. That's why I can recommend, because I have a lot of experience with my country. I can recommend Czech Republic as a good place to learn. Okay, now what Shell Study means? Shell Study means that those organizations which will be able to unlock human potential, to enable people to learn fast, and we are learning fast if we are at our best, if we are using our natural talents. There are so-called flow areas where we are in the area of our flow, where basically you do something which is very tough, but you use your talent in the best way. Let me talk a bit about this, because I obviously use it a lot when I'm coaching top executives or some Olympic Games winners. First of all, I mentioned talent. What is talent, guys? Talent is basically information you getting from the previous generation. It's genetic information you getting from the previous generation. So which means, because everybody got genes, everybody got a talent, okay? So the wrong question is, do I have a talent? What would be the right question? What is my talent for? And those talents are like inherited. So you have a talent you are born with, and those are like genes. This is your potential. But obviously you need to train your talent. You need to get better and better with your talent. Because in order to build skill or strengths, you need to have a talent, that's potential, and you need to multiply it by the efforts, by your investment in that talent. If the child is small, if the child is born, we have like 100 billion brain cells. It's called neurons. And those neurons are getting connected through so-called synapses. There are like synaptical circuits created. And more you do when you are a child, more you do things you really like. And the child, children, they can figure out basically what is giving them energy and what is getting energy from them. That's why they play all the time with some toys, and some toys they throw away. So the kids are learning very, very fast. This is why 50% of the synapses are connected up to the 3rd year of your childhood. And then it's like 75% till 10th years of your age, But then connections are happening all life. It's called neuroplasticity, which is a very important. But if this is true about the talent, I have a talent and I need to develop the talent, and the talent is captured through the synapses, okay? And if I do something very often and I like it, I have a lot of emotional connection to that activity, those synapses are getting connected in a very strong way. It's called myelin. The process is called myelinization, and it means you don't need to remember that, but what you should remember, if you build those strong synaptical connection, it means that you can do that activity even under the very tough conditions, number one. And number two, you are very fast in that activity. But what is very important, the school of thought today, I really mean it's in the schools and in the work, is saying, okay, you are great in those activities, keep it, but work much more on your weaknesses, and that's wrong. Because once you will start disproportionately work on your weaknesses, you will not lose your talents. You have still talents there, but you will use your strengths because you will not be that good in it. I met Rafael Nadal last year at the US Open, and I could spend some time watching him, training and so on. If Rafa would not play for 1 year, then probably he would still be a good player. He would beat me, probably. But he would not be Roger Federer or Novak Djokovic or other, top players. This is it. You need to, in order, to keep your neuroplasticity, you need to repeat that activity. So that's kind of the talent, okay? Now let's talk about optimal human performance. I study optimal human performance for more than 30 years now. And it seems to me that those people who absolutely love what they do, so they are inspired, there is a strong emotional connection to what they do, they are achieving best results. If they like more what they do, the way, if you will, or performance, they automatically achieve great results. I mean, Bill Gates was always telling me, I love software so much, right? He became the richest person in the world, but it happened. The result happened. Why? Because he loves software so much. Does the same with, Rafael Nadal or other guys. Inspiration is something very different, guys, from motivation. Motivation is about money, medals from Olympic Games, whatever. It's what is around you, what is external. Motivation, unfortunately, is expiring quite fast. Motivation is fine. We are all measured on something. Those are all measurements. But it's expiring fast. Inspiration in Latin means in spirit, which means like in you, in your soul. So this is something you love so much. And inspiration is able to bring you in so-called flow. Flow, as I said, are moments where you are at your best on one side, you are using your talent, but it's a tough activity you're doing. What is happening in the flow? In the frontal cortex, your measuring of the time is shutting down, so you are here and now, you are in the present moment, okay? That's number one. You are like, feel, I'm here and now. And number two, your amygdala, which is the emotional part of the brain, I call it monkey because it's jumping from one thing to the other. Amygdala is also switched off. What is amygdala? Amygdala is basically the part of the brain which protected our predecessors from dying. Because when there are some tigers and lions, amygdala was the piece of the brain who would tell you, okay, if you have weapons and if you have energy, you can fight. If you have just the energy, you basically escape. So you fly, and if you don't have energy, you don't have a weapon, you basically hide somewhere, so you freeze, okay? And that's where you learn probably in psychology, fight, flight, or freeze, okay? And that's how the stress was born. The issue with the stress was that in the past, stress was really like protecting us against some real danger. Today, stress is artificial, and technology is bringing even more stress. Your brain in 1 week needs to process so much information as the brains of our predecessors 100 years ago for the whole life. This is it. So there's a huge, huge pressure on us. And stress is not killing people. What is killing people, or what is making people, unsuccessful, is our inability to work with the stress. And that's basically why I work on the mental toughness. Mental toughness is your ability to keep your monkey under the control, if you will, right? But if you are in the flow, your monkey is switched off, your amygdala is fine, and the time is gone. In the flow, people are able to make 500% more productivity if they do some activity. They are learning, and you are potential students, or you are students, you're learning in the flow 450% faster. I will explain why. And 400% you're getting better creativity. Those are the numbers from McKinsey's study on flow. Why are those numbers so high? Because in the flow, basically, your all senses are involved, and that activity is very intensive. That's number one. Number two, in the flow, because you like it so much, what do? Flow is a marriage of success and happiness on the other side. You love that activity so much. That's why endorphin is released in your brain. Endorphin is killing pain, or, like if you are tired, the tiredness, if you will, right? So you can do that activity for a very long time. And if you do something together with the other guys, for example, you are learning or you are working on some projects, a lot of, serotonin is released, or oxytocin. Serotonin is the hormone of the togetherness, if you will, or, praising each other. And oxytocin is about trust and love, and you feel good. This is the reason, if you look at the history, okay, this is the reason why some battles were won in the history by smaller army, because they were like inspired and they were in the flow. Why the other army, they were there just for the money, okay? So this is about the flow. Why I'm talking about the flow? Because flow is the way you can get the best results from the people. So it's about the results. But they love what they do because a lot of endorphin is released, so they continue to work and do what they do, right? So this is it. According to the NASA study, 98% of the 6-year-old kids are showing high creativity. High creativity. If they are 25 years old, young people, it's only 2%. Why is that? Because the kids are playing in the childhood, in the early childhood, with what they love, really, what they like very much, some toys and some activities. And what Bruce Lipton is talking about in his book, Biology of Belief, he's saying that they are pretty much in the flow, like 90% of the time. I mean, I'm sure that you realize when you were a small child and your parents were calling you, and you were doing something you love, you didn't hear them, because all senses were in the flow. All senses were concentrated in the flow. Now, let me talk a bit about, what I call mental toughness, because talent and inspiration can get you in the flow, but how you can stay in the flow. There are a couple of things for the mental toughness. We don't have, that would be another, lesson. We don't have that much time, but I will give you a couple of weapons against your, monkey in your brain. Weapon number one, it's your body, okay? They call it in US the power posing. If you stay like, in the open position, for example, one of my players in Bundesliga, Patrick Schick, he used to stay when he was playing in Italy, he used to stay before the match like that, which means cortisol can be created, because this is like, unbeaten pretty much position. Because remember, first language was no spoken language, which was a body language. So we have, that's the evolution we have in our brains. This means basically I'm beaten. This is not good for you, right? If you stay like that, it's about power posing. 2 minutes, if you stay like that, or you may, stay just straight, 2 minutes of power posing, it's 18% higher testosterone and 60% lower cortisol. Cortisol is like lowering your performance, testosterone is higher, which means like 1/3 of your performance. Whatever you do, whether you are artists, students, businessmen, athletes, it doesn't matter. 1/3 of your performance is influenced by your body, because this is how our brain is wired from the previous generations. If you stay straight, and pretty much, tall, like in that position, a lot of testosterone and the good hormones are created. If you go like that, it's not good. So the body is one thing. Then the breath. Imagine if you have a stress, you are blocking your diaphragm, you are breathing like that. Once you start to breathe normally, breathe in, breathe out by nose, breathe in, breathe out. Your body will make sure that you are breathing to the belly. Diaphragm will move again, and your monkey will think, okay, we are breathing regularly, which means danger, tigers and lions are gone. I can sleep. This is exactly what is happening in your brain, okay? So the breath, very important. And then the last point is your mind. Your mind can carry only one thought at a time. So it's good to have some positive or at least neutral mind. So what you can do, for example, if you go for some exam or some match and you feel like I'm not, sure or whatever, you can do something which we call, mental jingle. You can do this. I make it. I make it. I make it. What is happening, basically, your body is making sure that, that you have some positive emotions. You can cut. What is emotion? Emotion is basically where your thought is touching your body, which means that through your body, you can change your emotions. And the other way around, obviously, right? Then the breath is like cooling you down, and you do the mantra. This is pretty much what the rugby team from New Zealand is doing, the haka. This is pretty much the same. They are like dancing, that's the body. They are breathing, and they are singing. So that's the same. So this is just one piece on the mental toughness. You can create, obviously more, but this is it. Now, guys, let me talk to you about the fact how I use this philosophy about talents and how to put people and the teams in the flow first time in reality in business. 20 years ago, in the year 2000, I was promoted to run Central and Eastern Europe, which was a huge jump for me in the career, because obviously I was running Czech and Slovakia as a country manager with like 100 employees, and suddenly I moved to Munich, Germany, and I've got 2,000 people and 31 countries. And the team I inherited, if you look like 10 years, back, they were like average or below the average. Those were the results. Like they were number 5, number 6, sometimes number 10, number 11, out of the 13 different regions in Microsoft. I knew that I need to do something very, very different from the past, but I didn't know how to do it. Funny enough, what helped me, I worked at that time, with the mountaineer Reinhold Messner. And Reinhold is the guy who did Mount Everest for the first time in human history without the oxygen bomb. That was huge. And I asked him, Reinhold, what is the best way to get to the Mount Everest? And the answer was like, there's no best way. Depends whether you have a better, arms or legs, what is your style, and so on. So you need to pick up your own way. And I was like, hey, does it mean that you can also do the same job with the different skills, talents, strengths, and so on? And I really started to think about it. Then I called all my HR people. I said, so far, we try to bend people around job description. We try to accommodate our, people around job description. I want to do something very different, accommodate or bend job description, around the people, the other way around, right? To make sure that, people are in the center, not the other way around. And I still didn't know how to do it, okay? Then we were in Atlanta. There was a huge, gathering of those 2,000 people. There are more people from around the world. And it was a regional session when I basically said, be more of who you are. And that's the slogan. We have even some T-shirts, right? But I still didn't know what to do. I said, be more of who you are. I said, I will use what is best in you guys, so you will love what you do, and we will have great results. But I still didn't know what to do. And then one of my HR colleagues, Helen, she basically met somebody from Gallup, and Gallup at that time was promoting tests on strengths, on human strengths, called Strengths Finder. In fact, you can see the link on the slide. And basically that test, the history of the test is they gather information from different resources from people who were extremely successful in different activities, okay? They study the success and they figure out like 34 activities which are leading to the success in different fields, because I'm using that test now with the artists, kids, entrepreneurs, executives, athletes, obviously, and so on. So what we did, basically, we started to cooperate with Gallup, and we tested each and every person in the company, like 2,000 people. And then we sat together with each and every person on a one-on-one basis, and we said, this is who you are. This is what you told us, that this is who you are. Those are your talents. And this is what we want you to do. This is your job description. Let's talk about how we can marry your talents with the job, okay? Like for 1 hour. It took like 3 months to do like all 2,000 people. It was not done everything by me, but some other people. But then what happened, guys? After another 3 months, my team was best performing team in the world when Microsoft was the biggest company on stock exchange, okay? And I was the same 4 years in a row, not only in terms of the revenue, market share, or profit, but also in terms of the partner and customer satisfaction, and in terms of the employee satisfaction. Because if you do some activities you like, the way you like, you are not only successful, where they have great results, but you are also happy, which was, fantastic. It was the same team who was performing average or below the average for the 10 years. We started to work differently to take what is best in each and every person to create the environment where they can be in the flow and where they can be in the flow as a teams, and the change happened. 2001, I became Microsoft partner, but I still kept it only in my region. They said, no, we'll not, do it anywhere else. 2002, I became vice president in the company. Again, they kept it. And then, in 2003, what happened, my team did 300 million more profit than United States with 8,000 people. I've got like 2,000 people with rather limited buying power as compared to the United States. United States, 8,000 people, and we've got results, 300 million more profit. And then we created like emerging market council and a lot of activities, so they started to do it, in the other regions as well. So this is experience I've got from work, from business, but now experience from the schooling, okay? Because I work a lot. I was chairing for many years roundtable for the World Economic Forum on education for Europe, Middle East and Africa. I was a advisor for the European Commission on higher education and many other things I did in education, right? So now with the education, my daughter Christina, she's a lawyer now. She lives in London. She basically was 4 years old at that time. And they've got a teacher, Birgit Ertl was the name of the teacher. She was from Austria in Munich. And Birgit was very tough with the kids, very tough with the kids. But kids absolutely love her. They said, this is the best teacher ever we've got, right? And I was very curious, why is that? So I invited her and we had a dinner together. And I said, Birgit, how comes you are so tough with the kids, but they still love you and you are still most popular teacher in the school? And she said one thing, and I will remember it for the whole life. Every child is a genius. You need to figure out where, in which field. And I believe this is the same with all human beings. Once you enable people to do what is like natural talent, what they like to do, huge change is happening. And whatever happened in your life so far, the past is past, but because of the neuroplasticity, if you will figure out what are your talents, your strengths now, and you will work on those strengths, your life can change, guys. Because our brain works like a chemical factory. If we are in a good environment, we use our strengths and talents, a lot of endorphin, dopamine, serotonin is created, and it's good for like your learning, your mental health, but it's also good for the physical health, because if serotonin is released and oxytocin and all of those endorphin and all of those good hormones, your immunity, especially now, it's quite important, your immunity goes up. If you are living in an environment where you are not happy, there's a lot of stress, you do something just for the money, a lot of cortisol is released, and it's not good for your health. So it's your decision. It's your power to choose from now on what you will do, right? And whatever happened in the past, everything can be changed, as I said, because of the neuroplasticity. So that's on real experience, and obviously I use this experience from, it's already 6 years since I left Microsoft, but I use a lot what I learned working with in Microsoft with the people, with my athletes and other people from the different fields, because sometimes people asking me how you can, train people in Bundesliga if you never play, soccer on that level. But the brains are pretty much the same. You can, whatever you learn on the mental toughness in business, you can basically move that experience in sport or in the other fields, right? This is it. That's why I think learning is so important. I will be 60 next year, or next year, the year after the next year. But I'm still, learning tons of the things, because learning is very important. Let me now finish by, saying a couple of things, okay? What I try to tell you, that, even people like me, I'm like from relatively small country, my parents were kind of the low-level middle class. It's not about what were like your conditions, it's about decisions. It's about your decisions, because when I studied, sometimes I was not a successful student. I needed to work very hard, that was the same. My first job was, I was a receptionist before I went for the army duty, and I'm like from the village. I lived for 20 years in the village. And then I traveled where I met people like Prince Charles. I worked with Bill Gates and other, top guys. It is about your decisions. One good decision you can make if you are a student to come and study in Czech Republic, I bet you, okay? So that's just a bit, more on promotion of my great country, because I think it is a great country. And funny enough, we have our, like our symbol, Czech symbol, is a lion, okay? And whenever I have this T-shirt is from, because I work a lot with the Czech fencing, national team, preparing them for the different events. So we have a lion as a national symbol. And lion got like two important, things. It's a power and it's a courage. So I wish you, whatever you will do in your life, power, because it's important, it's in your hands, your life, it's in your hands, number one, and the courage, because curiosity and the courage are the great, differentials in your life. And I put that I'm in all, social networks. I have a lot of content, English content on Instagram, but I have also English web page. There is a less English on the other social networks. But I have a great quote for you guys. Rational people are usually right, but only crazy people are changing the world. Because if you will be still rational, it's fine. Rationality, it's great. But you need to, if you want to change the world, you need to be crazy. You need to think the way. What is the vision? Vision is the picture of the world which does not exist yet, but you believe in that picture. I put on the slide Bill, and Bill Gates was a huge inspiration for me. And I remember one experience when I really figured out what is the vision, okay? We were sitting in front of the Polish government, and Bill Gates was talking about some products and some, technologies. And basically, later on, it was year 2004, I remember. And later on, the Polish Prime Minister, Mr. Bielka, he came to me and he said, I would be interested to buy some of those products and technologies just, to check it, to try, okay? And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, those are not real products. This was just Bill Gates' vision. And then I figured out what is the vision. Vision is the picture of the world which you believe in. And if you have a communication skills, to persuade other people, they will start to believe in what you believe. Then you can move the world and change the world. Whether you are Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Gandhi, or other, great guys. So I wish you all the best, guys. And again, rational people are usually right, but only crazy people are changing the world. God bless you. Thanks.